hardcore boxing fans out there, how are you doing? Big Porky here, the voice of hardcore boxing, and I hope you've subscribed as well, or I'll be coming to pay you a visit.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.
Welcome to part two. Strong words there from my wingman tonight. Woo! Julian. But I enjoyed that part one. I haven't really got anything wrote down here. I'm just making notes while I'm sat here with a cup. My head's a bit blown off there with Julian. He lost his cheese, slipped off his cracker a bit there, Jules. You'll be clicking on in a minute. Poor Ebony, she copped it there, didn't she? Oh, as Coogan used to say on his tracksuits or on his fancy t-shirt, it is what it is. Whew. I don't know. Well, what can we say? Poor Ebony Bridges. Is she going to come back? Well, Dave Colwell's done an interview, the Monday Mass interview. Welcome to part two, Julian. You left me hanging a minute there, but Dave Colwell's come out as predicted with his Monday Mass interview, probably done on the Sunday.
Not seen
and he says she's going to go again.
Well, first of all, I've not seen it, and could I just quickly say, when we'll get back onto this one, I could have done with you when I was training Gary Sykes. You know, sometimes you needed a firelight under him because you're the master of the psychology. Because anyone who knows me knows I'm like really calm and really laid back. And Russell, anyone who doesn't know me and Russell become good pals. You know what buttons to press, don't you? You know what names to give me to talk about to get me fucking wound up, mate.
Do you know how? Do you know how I know that? I spent a long time looking out a prison cell window and thinking, there's two new guys up there and I don't really like them. I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. I need to study them. And I used to study everybody.
Human behavior. Yeah.
Well, they call it human moves, don't they, in prison? The PO will say, just study people before you do anything or say anything. They tell you that as a young man. Because obviously when I got moved over into old prison on my 21st birthday from the youths, there were people like Paul Sykes and Delroy Showers and them sort of guys. So you had to have your wits about you. And but yeah, I know what makes you tick, Julian. I know things like this upset you because you've trained at an high level and you took your job seriously. And obviously, Nick Manners has told me that obviously you teach trainers how to train, so you obviously take it serious. And it's like an insult to you when you see somebody, as I'm not going to say who said this, but we know somebody, a trainer, who said that her feet's got feet like an elephant, don't we?
I think that's insulting to an elephant because I've seen elephants move quicker than Ebony Bridges. I mean, anyone who thinks we're being mean, what we're talking about is when you get, we'll touch on Dave in a second, but when you're told these people are like, if you think of Ebony Bridges, right, you think of great race. I always remember Reg Guthridge saying this. He says, you think of a great, race horses like, like Sheergar and Desert Orchid and great horses, right? They always have a great jockey on them, don't they? And you think of pairings like that. And then when I think of someone like Ebony Bridges, I wish she even got anyone who's a named coach. She's had all the chances that she's been given and the opportunities. And people will say, well, she's working with him now, and now she's working with him, and now she's with Dave Caldwell. And it's like, she's almost like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like she can't box. She just can't box. And I'm trying to figure out what's in it for these coaches who work with her. It's like people say, well, you'd have worked with her. You'd have to.
Oh, big following though, hasn't she, on social media?
Well, is that it? Is that a reason to work with then? Because she's got a big pair of whatever, and she's got a big following on social media, and she's got a potty mouth. Is that she gets big views? So I'll tell you what, there's got to be something in it for coaches where you've been there and done it. And I don't know, as a coach, I always liked working with talent. Didn't matter if it was an amateur or a young pro coming through. And do you not want some job fulfillment?
I don't know, but for all I know, she could be sucking all the cocks. Couldn't you? We don't know, do we? I mean, I don't know what the attraction is, mate. She can't box eggs, Easter eggs.
People listen, so do you know what? If the Gad could hear us now, he'd say, you haters. No, I'd say, no, actually, Gareth A. Davies, you're a hater. You're a hater of boxing. You're a hater of real boxers, of pure boxing. You're a hater of all these real, true fighters, men and women who are coming up through the ranks, learning the craft, applying themselves, not running around in string bikinis, selling ale for Conor McGregor. You're a hater of anybody who really believes in hard work and dedication and a level playing field. You're a hater because you're promoting someone shamelessly who's got no talent. She's got no talent. That's not being harsh. I'd ask anybody, right, how you can miss 17 jabs against a stationary opponent who's not moving a feet or a head. At what point does your ring IQ and your range not go feet, hands, feet? Because that's how you box. You box with your feet, and you have a principle called feet, hands, feet, right? You're finding your way against your opponent. You throw a jab, you're a little bit short. You adjust your feet. The next time you step in, you adjust your feet a little bit more, step in a little bit more. If she glides off to the left, you step in with the left, you step over with the right, and then you throw the jab. It's just basic stuff. It's basic stuff you learn at amateur level. And Dave Caldwell was telling her in the corner, I'm not hammering Dave, I'm just saying as it is, right? Dave Caldwell was telling her in the corner what shots to throw. I never once heard him say, step your feet in. Just step your feet in. Drop your shoulder, double step. Drop your shoulder, front step. Just basic stuff. She couldn't hit a stationary target. And I had visions of her on a punch bag, missing the punch bag. I'm like, this is as bad as it gets. And I'm not a hater, Gard or Dave or anybody else. I'm not a hater.
WBA world champion.
Exactly. That's my point, Russell. She's supposed to be a world champion. She's supposed to be elite. I mean, the first time she fought for the world title, she was number 9, and Shannon Courtney was number 8, and she got a picking. I mean, where do these rankings come from? Ebony Bridges has never once truly been one of the 15 best fighters in that division at any point. And it's a shallow pool, by the way. And she's never once been a true top 15 fighter in that division. And it's not right. Is she really a Leeds fan?
No, she ain't, no. Well,
It's just stupid, and people believe it, and then people perv over in the comments, and it's like, my God, not only have you got poor taste in boxing, you got poor taste in women. It's poor, mate. It's poor. And what needs to happen, and you just started this part 2, and you said that Dave said something like she's going to come again.
Yeah.
Now this needs to stop. This has to stop. This talk about Ebony Bridges boxing for world titles at world level has to stop. Ebony Bridges, you carry on fighting. You box who you want. But you shouldn't be on main broadcasts. You shouldn't be on shows and posters. There are better fighters out there than you.
Do you think that Ed found out about her trying to negotiate a deal at Sky and thought, right, you're getting parked up, you?
Fighters have short careers, right? I've got no issue with her trying to make money, but she'd sell her soul to anybody, wouldn't she? She really would, wouldn't she? She'd just sell her soul to absolutely anybody, but people will just jump on the Ebony Bridges bandwagon. And I thought at the weekend, I'm like, surely that's it now. Surely it's just, if you look at a record, which I've only recently done because for the purpose of talking about it tonight, if you truly look at a record and look at the people who she's beat, pretty poor. If you look at the records of people who have beaten her, a couple of them aren't that great. It's really low level stuff, but it's high up the bill, isn't it? It's high up the bill. And people say, oh, it's only a bit of fun, McGowan. You take it too seriously. It's not a bit of fun because what happens, and you know, you get the money, don't you? You get a purse, you get a lump of money for a promotion, and you divide it up accordingly. And you got fighters lower down the bill who's getting chip change. And this is someone who's earning decent money and stealing a living, really, in professional boxing. You have to say she's absolutely stealing a living. And it was great that her opponent, I thought she looked really overjoyed when she got the win. It meant so much to her. I think a little girl was there. That was nice to watch. But what I want to know is why the likes of Dave Caldwell, and I'll say this to Dave if I see him, I've no issue with that. What do you mean we'll go again? What, you've just been trounced by someone with 0 KOs who was number 10 by the IBF.
Boxing Social, it's on.
You've been trounced. What do you mean you'll go again? What gives you the fucking right to go again? Why don't you start again? Why don't you learn to box? Why don't you learn to box? Why don't you take on some 6-rounders in competitive fights and pay respect to the art of boxing? No, it's all about leapfrogging and jumping ahead. And because we all know that if she didn't wear what she wore for the weigh-ins, and she didn't stick her chest in front of every camera, and she didn't have all these creeps hanging around her in on social media and all these perds, she'd be nowhere in boxing. She wouldn't have had any opportunities whatsoever. And you're talking to somebody who's seen kids not get opportunities that they deserve. It's wrong. I want my world champions to be world class. Call me old fashioned. I want my world champions to be world class. And I want the best men or women to fight for the world titles. That's all I want. And when they get absolutely trounced by someone with 0 KOs and beaten up over 10 rounds, and they can't land a jab against a stationary target out of 17 attempts, I don't want them to get another world title. I don't want them to get another payday. I want them to either prove they can box to fight for that world title again, or get out of the sport and do something else.
Yeah. Can I just say, for the gentleman who emailed me this morning, it's Jack Shannon who trains Kevin's horses. I know you've got an horse, but I don't know any details about like that, so you probably have to go online or something. But I know his dad was a footballer, Mick Shannon, but I'm not an horseman, so don't email me again. Oh shit! Right, the Gad. While we're on him, the Gad.
What's he been doing?
Well,
Who's he been doing?
He's everywhere.
It's, yeah. Very smart man. We've said it before. Smart man.
Educated man.
Educated man. Good mover and shaker. Knows who to tickle to get a reaction. Knows who to not bother getting close to because there'll be no gains in his career. He's done what most people do now. He's fast-tracked himself, but he knows his boxing history. He knows details of boxing. I don't know if he knows much about the actual sport of boxing in terms of the physical sport of boxing. I got no idea. I suspect he doesn't, but I guess it's a sign of the times, isn't it? We've just been saying we've got Ebony Bridges as world champion, or was a world champion, and we've got Gareth A. Davis as probably the most recognisable pundit in boxing.
Well, he's putting himself about, isn't he?
I mean, I thought he let Adam Catterall just get mugged off. Didn't rush to his defence. But as I've said to you from day one, this is about people that you know, about people in real life, and about people in any walk of life. I said this to you, I said this before, I'm like a stuck record. Very first Porkies I ever came on 2.5 years ago, maybe, mate, I forget.
Yeah.
I said to you, asked me about Sam Jones, and it says people will always do what's best for themselves. And I've seen in boxing, I had a pro license for 20 years, an amateur license for 7 years, 8 years. And in boxing, I met some of the best people I've ever met in my life. And I met some of the biggest arseholes I've ever met in my life in boxing. And you saw people having conversations. You'd be there on a sky bill, and you'd see people like arms around each other, shaking each other, hugging each other. How are you doing? How are you doing? Hadn't seen you in a while. And then they'd leave the room and they'd be whispering, going, "Oh, he's such a wanker. Oh God, can't stand him. He did this and he did that." And there's loads of them like that in boxing. You must have come across this, Russell.
Oh my God.
God, it's so fake. It's so fake. It's untrue. But you get salt of the earth people as well. You know, you really do get people who work tirelessly in amateur gyms, you know, club secretaries and treasurers and people who just help out on shows, and you get amazing people. And then you get the other ones, don't you? You get the ones who go around with the buckets for the raffles. You know the ones, don't you?
Oh yeah, the raffle that they do that usually pulls about 1,500 quid for charity. And I'm like, well, what charity? And you never get to read about it.
Never hear about the charities. We know where those buckets end up, don't we?
Yeah.
That pot's mine, that pot's yours. Oh, that pot, get some tennis from behind bar. We'll chuck that in the charity tin.
I remember this one bucket collection, and I'll name him Jim Hope, you shit house.
If anyone's going to name someone, it's going to be you, mate.
I'm not. Well, why would I be bothered about these shit houses if they got a problem? Sue me, Jim Hope, this old codger, and I used to get a table every show, obviously, because I work for Dennis. So I've got this 10 of us on this table. Every single show, he used to come up with his bucket and his raffle tickets. And after about a year, I got started to get a bit brave. And I said, "You know, will you F off with that bucket, you bothering my pals who I've grown up with?" Do you know what I mean? And he knew not to come near me, but he always used to hover about. And I used to think, Jesus. And then once I collared someone. I says, "Here, what does he take him?" And he says, "Oh, he's took 400. So there were, I remember, I'll never forget as long as I live. There were 1050 in bucket, and there were 1450 altogether, and he took 400. That was his concession. And I thought, well, that's no wonder he's an old codger driving around in a Jag, a married man. And then he only went and told Michelle Taylor he loved her, Dennis's PA, you know, woman on desk, went and told her he loved her. She must have thought it was fantastic because Michael Alexander put it on her that night, didn't you, Michael? You wrong. What are you going to do? Tell me? Who's going to stop me? Shithousers. Anyway.
Absolute shithousers. It's like I knew a guy. I used to work in a fish shop when I was at school. Then when I was a student, I worked there every Friday night, every Saturday. And this guy called Terry used to come in the fish shop 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, with tinsel around there and that, with a bucket collecting. And he used to go into Rose and Crown and Duke of Wellington and Duke of York, all local pubs in Dewsbury, with this bucket collecting for the kids. And Bob, who was my old gaffer at the fish shop, used to say, gets a new car every 2 years and never done a day's work in his life, because usually these people who collect for charity, they don't have jobs.
No.
They're usually on disability, mate. And he was saying, we're on disability, what we now call a PIP. I'm stereotyping now, but I'm not far off, am I?
Listen, I remember sat with Dennis's dad, Big Den. We were sat there, and he said, "Look at him over there, Porky." I goes, "Yeah, that Asif Valley." He goes, "He's doing that collection again." Do you remember him, Asif Valley, Amir Khan's manager? Yeah. He turned, Dennis goes, "What's he doing?" I goes, "He's doing that collection again." He goes, "What for?" And it were for, I'll tell you what it were for, and talk about putting it on people. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? It were for children who are dead and the parents can't afford to bury them. Now, don't forget, we live in a country where the states take care of all that, don't they? So when somebody's coming up to your table and they're going on about this, this charity for kids that are dying and parents can't bury them. You feel that if you've had a drink, people were putting money in a knife
You
for.
feel morally I need to put into that charity, of course, yeah.
But yeah, and I was thinking to myself, but all a sham, wasn't it? Just a little skanker, want you, I see, if you're wrong. And
Some shit out. There's some shit houses in boxing, mate. There's some
yeah, I'm glad
proper
I was buzzing
shit
when
houses.
American fucked him off. But no, this just stuff like that. I see stuff like that. This is why when I first started up there, first thing I said, well, I don't want to be handling money. No ticket money, Dennis, so I don't like that. I never
Don't
handle.
touch it.
I won't go anywhere near it because you know what? Wherever there's money, my dad always says to me, because he's like coal miner, listen, wherever there's money, Russ, there's going to be problems. So you're best off just doing what you do and just stay away from that money side of it. It used to make me skin crawl. I remember sat with Mick Whale and he was Mick Whale to look at that over there. And it goes on all the time. Do you know what I mean?
It does go on. It's
Blind eye
dreadful,
to it,
actually.
don't they?
It's dreadful, is that the people used to promise tickets and I didn't deal with it. Luckily, Gary's mate, Sykes's mate, used to do the tickets and they were always having to put in. A few of us always had to put in at the end because the money was always short. People, well, I'll give you 20 now. And then I used to say, don't give them a ticket unless I got the cash. But anything like that, charity, sponsorship as well. People taking cuts off sponsorship and rinsing. Oh, it's filthy, mate. That's why. Luckily, I never needed to earn a living from boxing. Me and John, who had the gym, we used to be short of rent. We used to just put it out of his own pocket. We weren't bothered. We didn't care less. It kept the gym open. It gave the pros a home. But there are others some gyms I know, they just run on dirty money, scams here and there, backhanders, and it's shameful because there's a lot of good people out there, honest people. But boxing's I know we've gone off on one, but that's the kind of idea what we do in it. We do it's organic, but it's dirty sport. And what you realise in boxing, and that's why we're talking about the Ebony Bridges, and it's all relative. It's grubby, but people in boxing will do anything for a few quid. I could tell you some stories, and I'm not about an old former trainer of mine. I'm not going to say it because it makes me unpopular. I'll tell you them offline. And shocking.
Josh Warrington, where does he go now?
Josh is in a real difficult position, isn't it? Because you can look at that was a bad decision, I thought, or I was going to win the fight against Lara when the technical decision and blah blah blah, and I could have gone on against Lee Wood. You can look at this as much as you want, and I know Josh and Sean, but ultimately what it boils down to is this: you've won one fight in your last 5, and that was against a 37-year-old opponent who he'd previously beat in Martinez, and he'd not that long ago been beat by Zelfa Barrett, who at that time was just a prospect. So you've got one win, which is not a great win, really, in reality, in 5 fights. So where do you go from there? And I think he's got 2 routes that he's going to go. They're either going to talk up the Lee Wood rematch, and the challenge you've got there is there's no belt available right now, because if he's vacated at 126, then at 130, unless there's a vacant belt or something, I don't know how Eddie would sell that fight. It's all right saying Wood against Warrington, unless I'm missing something, because I don't watch this stuff every day. But what's it going to be for?
Well, Lee Wood's
Cordini and Wood's a better fight. Sorry, go on, Russell.
Sorry, Lee Wood's a super feather. Now, Josh couldn't hold a shot at feather, so why would he go up to super feather?
Well, that's the thing, is that the one thing what you can say about, and Josh was boxing really well, but I remember saying to you about how weight drained Lee Wood looked, didn't he? He looked awful at 9 stone. And I said to you, because sometimes you don't find your power until a bit later. Dehydrated fighters can start really slowly, which is why you jump on them. And the reality is, and this is not anti-Josh or pro-Josh, this is a statement of fact. The first time Lee Wood really opened up, he dropped him heavily, didn't he? It was the first combination he threw with real venom and put the shots together. Up until then, his timing was off, his accuracy was off. It was not warming into the fight. It looked quite dry early on, but the first time he really put those shots together, it was button moon time. According, that's what your quote, button moon time. And Lee Wood, without having to squeeze out those extra 4 pounds, you'd have to favour him doing that again. Joe Cordina against Josh Warrington's a really bad fight for Josh Warrington. So
Yeah.
if you ask, it was a really bad fight for Josh. So you have to ask the question, what's next for Josh Warrington? And it's a very difficult thing. And I know he's been good with his money. He's no one's fool. And I'm sure at some point, I'm sure they've discussed retirement already. Although when you listen to him, he says he's got loads left. But the truth is, Josh, and I'd tell him this to his face. I've known Josh at one point we were close, we're no longer close. But sometimes you have to be honest with fighters, don't you? And say it's not there anymore. The punch resistance isn't there. The timing's not really there, and the real question is
It's not
realistically,
for Lee
Josh.
Wood, though, is it? It's not for Lee Wood, though, is it? But he's got the
No,
power.
no, time's not
Feel,
on.
isn't it?
But the question is, this isn't for Josh. Lee Wood's a different situation. He's coming off 2 of his last 3 fights have been good knockout wins. But the question for Josh is, what do you realistically hope to achieve now if you continue to box? That's the question. You have to look at the champions, look at how marketable they are against Josh Warrington, what the demand is. And if there's a big demand for Josh Warrington in a big fight, Josh will do that because it's good money. But after a while, you can only trade on the ticket sales and you can only trade on the Leeds fans and you can only trade on being a former world champion for so long. And this sounds hard, but the reality is it's 1 win in 5. That's the cold, light of day reality. If you look at Michael Conlon, the cold reality for Michael Conlon is you've been stopped in your last 2. And previous to that, you had a fight in between, but previous to that, Lee Wood knocked you out of the ring, stretchered you. That's the cold reality for Michael Conlon, isn't it? So you got Warrington and Conlon. How much is there in the pot to start paying guys who are the form was those days with the good form was a long time ago,
They're
and they
back
just
to 80 grand a fight now, aren't they?
That's what I'm saying. It all boils down to the fact that is what's worth Josh, and I'm not being harsh on Josh. Josh has been phenomenal what that kid's achieved, but what's it worth for you to get back in the ring and doing a 11, 12, 13, 14 week camp? Because camps don't come cheap. And what happens then is you start to compromise on what you're going to pay out, don't you? You no longer get the quality sparring. You say, we'll do it all in-house. We'll do it in-house. And before long, you're not uncovering every single stone in camp. And he's in a tough situation. He's not getting any younger. He's not got a style, like I've always said, the Ricky Hatton, Josh Warrington style has a ceiling in terms of age. 31, 32, 33. You get no better. It's not like I always said to you, haven't I? If you want longevity in a career, if you've got good defensive skills and a good ring IQ, I'm not talking about just massive toughness and massive fitness, but if you've got good defensive skills and a box of tricks, but you've got a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, if you've got those things, you can extend your career by 3, 4, 5 years and still get good money fights. But he clearly hasn't got the defense anymore. The punch resistance isn't really there. Anybody who says it is, I'd say it's not. It's not. The guy had a cast iron chin. Yep, there were big shots, but I'd personally like Josh to, well, Josh has got to do what Josh wants to do ultimately, but can you see him being a genuine bona fide world champion again? That's a question for you, Russell.
No, not a chance.
But then the question goes back to what the question I've just asked. Josh, what is it you want from boxing now? Do you need another 500 grand to top up your bank balance? Hopefully you don't, because hopefully whatever you've earned in those 5, 6 really good years, that's been enough to kind of look after you for the rest of your life. But if you do need another 500 grand, you've done something wrong. But I hope that's not the case. But I can't see anybody paying him 500 grand now, can you?
No, it'd be 100 grand to be lucky to get 100 grand a fight now.
Yeah, to clear 100 grand, I don't think you're far off, mate, at all.
Okay, the Dave Colwell interview, it's not on Boxing Social, it's on Cook's channel, IFL, and it's 5 minutes 48 seconds. and it said Ebony just didn't box to plan tonight. She will come again, and he goes on to say she's not finished. So
Can I counter that?
Pardon?
Can I counter that? Can I make a comment on
Yeah,
that?
of course you can. Yeah. Feel free.
So I've not seen the interview. I don't know what the plan was, but I assume the plan was to not do what she normally does, which is put her head down and throw both her hands, which actually she's more successful at because she's quite tough. For all the criticism I've given of Ebony Bridges, she's tough. The Shannon Courtney fight showed she's tough. Yeah, an eye out here, blood all over. She hung tough and she's gritty. So I don't think Dave's plan was for Ebony to be gritty and get down and dirty and grind away, which should have been the plan, by the way. I think Dave's plan was to use the jab, get her on the end of the jab, and use that right hand. And I'm telling you why that was the plan, because that's how she started the fight in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And even the commentary, Chris Mannix and the other guy, Sergio, they were saying, you know, she's kind of caught between 2 styles. She's caught between what the coach wants her to do, which is what we were talking about. She was saying before the fight, wasn't she? I'm going to box. I'm going to show you some boxing. I'm going to use some boxing. And that's the Dave Caldwell hallmark, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sticky jab, that jab, pop, right hand. Opie Price does it, you know, Jordan Gill does it.
Well done, Opie Price.
Yep, Opie Price is a good kid, very good kid. And that's clearly was the game plan, Dave. It just didn't work. Your game plan of having a box didn't work. And do you know why, Dave, it didn't work? I'm not giving Dave a hard time. He's a good coach. But do you know why, Dave, it didn't work? Because she can't box. She can't box eggs. Don't give a girl like that a game plan. Whip her into massive shape. Throw her in and say, let your bloody hands go and make it as rough as you can.
In shape. She looked podgy.
She does, doesn't she? She's really thick set. She'd no definition across her shoulders and her legs were really thick set. And she's also aging, isn't she? She's 37-year-old and tell us what the game plan was then. What was the game plan? Because you could see the game plan. She was trying to box. She can't box, Dave. She can't box. Mark Tibbs will tell you that she can't box. You get her into as much shape as you can and you let her have a tear up. And then you flick a coin in the heads or tails. She wins or she loses. Don't teach her to box. She can't box. And if the game plan is boxing, then I suggest you teach her footwork. The 3 fundamental pieces of footwork, the 3 fundamental directional pieces of footwork that you have to master before you can box. You teach her those 3 things before you even show her how to throw a jab. That's what you do. The game plan, she did the game plan. The game plan was a wrong game plan because she can't box and you wanted her to box. Done. End of.
Getting back to Warrington, they jumped from Warren, from obviously Earn to Warren, back to Earn. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, that's where they made the mistake. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. You know, jumping from promoter to promoter. Now, Devin Haney done the same thing. He went from Eddie to Aram and now back to Eddie. But Eddie seems more forgiving of Haney than he does of Warrington, doesn't he? Why is that?
Well, first of all, Haney, and this is not having a go at Josh or Sean, who I've known a long time. Haney and his father, Bill Haney, are very smart, aren't they? These are smart guys. You know, his dad's a smart guy. You can listen to him. You can see him around people. He susses people out. He's a smart guy. They're also smart enough to know that, no disrespect to Josh Warrington, who really did fantastically winning the 2 world titles, but Josh isn't what I would call an elite world champion. You know, when you've got... Josh was never pound for pound contender, was he?
No.
And so Haynes is a big star, you know, and he became a big star when he beat Cambosis. But Haynes is now an even bigger star. But I think the difference is the potential. So maybe Sean went from Eddie to Warren to Eddie because he was trying to make the most of Josh's career and get the fights now while it matters. Whereas you look at Haney, I think it's, even though I'm saying let's see where he goes, I think it's a good bet to say that Haney will still be at world championship level in 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
I just think you're talking about a different level of fighter, Russell. No disrespect to Josh. I think you're talking about, whilst he still has it to do, Josh was always, and I think Josh would say this actually, he was always an overachiever, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Tremendously tough, tremendously fit, tremendously dedicated.
Don't need credit. All that team from day one, Nicky Manners and all of them, don't they, who were involved with him? Jimmy Allen.
All need credit because Josh will tell you that he didn't have the world-class skill set. So
Yeah.
what they've achieved, it's 10 times harder to achieve what they've achieved than to what Hayne has achieved. Because yeah, Hayne has got to have the dedication, the skills, and he's got to have the commitment and all that kind of stuff.
Gifted, didn't he, Hayne?
His gifts are unbelievable, aren't they? And that's the thing. And realistically, I remember having conversations with Josh, and Josh used to just say, "Oh, Jules," I said, "What's your ambition, Josh? What do you see yourself doing?" And Josh, when Sykes was British champion, he used to look up to Gary and he'd say, "I'd love to fight for a British title." Josh is such a level-headed lad. I'd love to fight for a British title. So they overachieved, didn't they? They massively overachieved, which is credit to everybody involved in that team, isn't it? Really.
Massive.
That's why we're not knocking them. But when you talk about,
Had it off.
yeah, in boxing, there's levels, aren't there? So if you look at domestically, yeah, you look at Josh, you look at Lee Wood, you look at Galahad, okay. So you're looking at three guys there who were kind of world class ish, won versions of titles, etc. But then when you talk about, if we talk about boxing now, right, and we talk about Crawford, okay, you talk about Terence Crawford, you talk about Tank Davis, Haney. You're talking about a different level of boxer, aren't you?
Yeah.
The levels above our guys, and people say, "Oh, hang on, that's not harsh." It's not. It's like the levels above our guys, and that's why you said Josh has done absolutely fantastic because he's overachieved. And someone like Devin Haney, if he loses 2 or 3 of his next 7 or 8 fights, you can say he's underachieved, wouldn't you? Because of his skill set is just so immense that no one ever talked about Josh Warrington being a potential great fighter, did they?
No, they didn't know.
And again, that's just levels.
Say no, he'll get beat tonight. He'll get found out, and he kept going through levels, didn't he?
It was brilliant, and it was his toughness. I remember, I always thought he'd beat Carl Frampton. I wasn't talking to the team at that point. We'd had us fall out and stuff, but I always said he'll beat Frampton. Frampton's on the slide. Timing was everything, and Josh will be just too much pace for Frampton, too much intensity for Frampton. He'll get to Frampton. And it was unbelievable, really, that Josh beat a kid like Carl Frampton, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, massive.
I mean, what they've achieved, we're not knocking them. We're talking realistically now, aren't we? But it's all about levels, and you get a kid like Lee Wood. Yep.
Yeah.
Is he really elite in terms of, is he really what you call an elite world champion?
No, I don't. I think Lee Wood's on slide, but I think that his power got him out of trouble with Conlon and Warrington.
Yeah, it did. But can you imagine a Lee? I'll give you an example. So you look at super featherweight, right?
Gavin McDonnell knocked him out, Lee Wood.
Yeah. So if you look at 130 pounds, look at Lee Wood at 130 pounds, right? How would he have gone on against? I'll give you a name from the past and one quite recently. So a name from the past, Azuma Nelson.
Oh my God, he got put on bottom moon by
and a more recent name, Tank Davis, when he was a super featherweight. How would Lee Wood have done against Tank Davis?
Oh, in fact, is Pat Cowdell still up on button moon after Azuma Nelson done him? Still there, isn't it?
That left uppercut was savage, wasn't it? The shortest, most accurate left uppercut you ever seen in your life.
We spoke about promoters and people not showing their loyalty or crossing the street and then coming back and that. It's a bit similar to Dylan White with Rivers fight. They kept that drug test quiet, but they didn't keep this last one quiet. They thrown Dylan White away like
garbage. They were ready for him to go, weren't they?
Yeah, but they've after obviously worked with Bricktop with Fury fight, but Conor Ben, they've kept Conor Ben's close to them, and he's got benefit of doubt, hasn't he? You know what I mean, kind of thing.
We're waiting for the announcement today, Russell, because Frank Smith said a week ago, just over a week ago, Frank Smith said, it's my favourite one, this, he's done it again. He said 48 to 72
Hang on
hours.
this, because the Gads just put something out about Ben. Do you want to do one
Say
spot?
that again, Russell.
Hey?
What do you say, mate?
The Gads just put something out about Ben. Do you want me to send you a link?
Are we doing part 3?
Hold on then, 2 seconds.
He's
We'll
done
join
it
you
again.
on part 3 while Julian pulls his hair out about.
Done it again with Connor Ben. You've mentioned him, I can't go to bed now because I'll have to get this out of the system.